Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Mike here. Mike, you're the CEO of ShiftKey, a company that's been pretty innovative with helping to solve the issue of staffing and really supplying the best kind of talent to hospitals and other facilities that need it. You've built up and really been leading a great platform that is enabling the proper care to be done. I think that helping a lot of people have jobs in areas they may not have been able to have a job because of the flexibility needed, and without your platform providing the opportunity to do so. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Hey, Ben, thanks for having me. I appreciate it this morning. Good to meet you.
Awesome. So Mike, early on, how did your passion for business leadership and healthcare even begin? What inspired you to want to be in this space?
Honest answer, Ben, is that passion for healthcare and then making a difference in the world really started for me with personal experiences growing up. I was raised in a single parent household, extremely low to no income, kind of place where hope the lights stay on some months, right? Everybody's doing their absolute best. And I was actually without healthcare until I became an adult. And as a kid, that'll make an impact. That'll make a difference on you for sure. And from the very beginning, I wanted to be able to make a difference in some way. And it wasn't until later on in my career that I realized there was a good path to do so, right? And really, what the best way, to take advantage of my experiences and be able to lean in to make a greater difference for others out there, right? That accelerated a bit in 2020, right at the height of the pandemic. My son had brain surgery, and so these are kind of big markers that'll change you as a person, and really wanted to see what we could do to make a big impact. And at that point, ShiftKey was already off the ground and running, and it ends up being a bit of a conduit to be able to address these challenges and to harness how you are as a person and your environmental learnings growing up. And we've been able to create this technology in this marketplace that connects facilities and professionals that want to stay in the space and actually fill in this big gap that has existed for a long time. The mission's personal, I guess, more than anything else I could say to you. You want to make a difference. You want to do good in this world. And with things that change so fast these days with technology, it's such an empowering and fun thing to be a part of, to understand what we do can make a difference in so many lives every day. And so it keeps me motivated to make sure that we are absolutely doing everything we possibly can to make a difference.
Totally. So how did the opportunity to be involved in ShiftKey happen?
Yeah, so long story short, I've been in the healthcare space since 2004. At that time, I got to meet some wonderful, wonderful folks. Two of our founders, we all worked together in another company based here in Texas, but owned out of California. And it was very traditional. It was very phones and fax machines, right? So healthcare is a very slow to evolve space. And the three of us, as we worked together, realized that there's a better way to do this, right? And over time, I left that company to go help start another company back in 2010. And two of our other founders got back together down the road and try to start a new way to make things work. And I was pulled in a little bit afterwards to help accelerate this. It just, in short, healthcare has been something that it's always been the way that it's been, right? It's very slow to evolve, very slow to change. And as the story goes, two of our founders, one was calling into facilities trying to see if they could, work and help them with their demand for nurses. The other was calling and trying to find nurses out in the wild and see if they could come in and help and make the match. And the light bulb struck at that moment of, how can we leverage tech in a way that will make this connection faster, easier, and provide more flexibility for folks. And that's what really started it. It was one of our founders on the phone with two different nurses at the same time, realizing that this wasn't going to work, at scale. And once he started to tinker with, okay, what can we do for tech? What can we do to start applying these things? Realize there was a very robust market for it that was latent. It was really sitting under the surface. And with that clear kind of market demand in place, it was able to just take off from that point. I mean, once the first iteration of the platform hit the ground, it did not take long to start to scale rapidly.
Mhm. Well, what do you think really helped get this type of scale? Was it, was it just the? I mean, how did you even find the type of demand and sign up? And I mean, even initially, how did you get these hospitals to want to be okay with taking the people that you have on the platform, and then also even attracting these types of nurses? How did you solve that platform issue?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for us has always been that culture, accountability, transparency, and how the platform was built um, just meant a world of difference in the space.
Mhm.
Um, the beauty of our products and the tech that is consumed by our users, it's really simple to use. I like to think about if you have kids and you hand them an iPhone for the first time. I mean, it takes them 2 seconds to figure it out, right? So they know
Yeah.
where to go and how to navigate with it. And that really is how the platform was born. Okay, how does this make sense? We've got so many users in the space, whether they're nurses or healthcare facilities. Again, I mentioned they're used to doing things the exact same way over and over again. So if you can't apply and allow for a very simple way to ingest how to do something new and learn it, it's not going to scale quickly. So two parts answer to your question. We wanted to make sure that we built something that was simple and easy to understand. We wanted to be sure that we instilled as much trust and transparency as possible in the platform, because anything new is going to come, to market with concern, right? Okay, wait a minute, what is this going to be? Is it going to affect my business or affect my career in some way that I don't want? And the more that we could put that, open and transparency out to market, the faster we grew. Most of the growth, honestly, from the nurses coming to the platform has been word of mouth. In the first handful of years, there was zero marketing budget. There was not enough money to go around to be able to say, hey, we want to go just dominate this particular market. So we just did it the right way and allowed just this stream of folks to come through and share their experiences just through the healthcare community, and it worked really fantastically. And so now the trick is as that demand continues to grow and as our brand continues to grow along with it, uh, we feel like we have this sense of accountability, and um, you know that we have to continue to keep that trust up over time,
Mhm.
um, so we can continue to do what we want to do, which is continue to provide that flexibility and that gap in the space, or fill that gap in the space for nurses that want to stay in the profession.
Mhm. Why do you think that such a large portion of the people that use the platform are single parents or they're students? Like, why is it attracted so much in that demographic?
We thought a lot about this over the years, and really how it ties in. I go back to frankly the data behind it all, right? Um, Numbers always move around a bit, but the best that we can find, anywhere between 80 and 90% of all nurses in the United States are female.
Mhm.
Um, 80% of single parent families are also led by mothers.
Huh.
Um, just those two things would skew the data to that point that people that are in this industry, they want to make a difference, and they tend to be female, and the single parents and the single caregivers are predominantly female on that side. Um, so what we have is of a group of nurses that really want to be able to stay in the industry. They want to be able to do what they love to do, which is care for patients. Um, and they've found over the last 10, 20, 30 years their access to working the way they need to work because of uh, of the demands of the job have changed dramatically. And so a solution, a platform, a marketplace like ours allows allows that connective tissue to happen where they can stay in the profession that they love,
Mhm.
while not attributing further to their burnout of working a Monday through Friday, 7 to 3, or Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 every single week, because they have to go home and take care of the kids, or they have to, take care of mom and dad that are at the house. Um, the data there supports it. And so I believe that we're charged to make sure that we continue to provide a way to allow them to stay in the profession that they love.
What I don't understand is if your platform didn't exist, how would these people be able to get people to do this? Like they'd have to call up hospitals directly, and that can be a whole process. And who says that they would even trust them by just calling direct?
You're way ahead of most when talking about this topic, right? Because that's exactly the case. I mean, we found through a recent survey that we'd have a third of every user on our platform, every nurse on our platform, would not be able to continue to work in healthcare if it wasn't for ShiftKey.
Huh.
Another third had taken a full break only to re-enter when they realized that ShiftKey was an option for them, because this hasn't been around for a long time, right? So this is something that is new to uh, quite a few folks in the space. And you also have, it's funny, we call it the rule of thirds, another third of the group that would leave the industry altogether if they couldn't have access like this. So you're right. What would happen is um, you have this demands of being a caregiver, where it's whether it's caring for mom and dad or caring for kiddos at home. You have to make your schedule work. Hospitals, skilled nursing facilities are open 24 hours a day. So if you're the last person in on a hiring tree, you're likely going to get the worst schedule for the very beginning, right? We've all been there before. You're not going to get your pick of the litter. Um, you can't work Thursday through Monday nights, overnights when we've got a kid at home, right? That needs mom or dad. And so you're absolutely right. They would try to find something that would work, and that friction has been building up more and more over time. And to have uh, an access point like which we provide that allows them to go to work. And if they want to work permanently somewhere, they can immediately. It almost just provides the best of both worlds. And honestly, it gives me a lot of joy to be able to make that connection for them. But that's exactly what they would do is, um, a lot of them would just leave. And that's a scary thing, given how many people we expect to leave the workforce over the next 5 to 10 years, specifically in the healthcare side of things.
Mhm. How have you been able to be profitable since the beginning, Mike? I mean, there's a lot of these companies that are in software that aren't profitable and takes them a long time. And sometimes many, many years, and sometimes they don't even achieve profitability.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think that you guys have been able to do from a management standpoint that's enable you to be profitable since the beginning, pretty much?
You know, it's been a blessing for us because, as I mentioned before, being in the space such a long time, you realize where the gaps are. And
Mhm.
the gaps, quite simply, in this space are there's spiky demand. Okay. Um, Not everybody can plan a surgery. Not everybody can plan when they're going to go out. And so um, ShiftKey was born with solving that problem from the very beginning, right? Of saying, okay, how can we access uh, the nursing workforce necessary to meet the demands that are always changing in a hospital or a post-acute building. Which it doesn't sound like the most exciting, path forward, but it really, really is, because we're solving this thing at a grand scale, right? Um, there was a clear and defined market for us from the very beginning. And being that was the case, we want to stay laser focused on just that one thing. It's so easy to be able to say, okay, starting a new company, we've got more coming in than we do going out, even if it's a couple dollars here a month, right? To put more money over here, this new shiny object that might pop up. And what we did, we stayed completely focused on the task at hand, and didn't vary from that from the very beginning, and reinvested every single dollar back into the tech, back into our product lines, back into user interviews, back into making sure that we stayed clear on that path of where's the demand and how can we solve a really needed issue, which was being that relief valve for healthcare facilities in the space. And we would every dollar go back and invest in the original thesis, and it's paid off very, very well, because it's allowed us over the last 8 years now, right, to get in a position to where we can make meaningful change on a broad scale. There's no silver bullet. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, we started working out of, an old dry cleaners in South Dallas, right? There was just a handful of us going through that, trying to make it work. But when you realize that you've got a bigger vision at hand, if you can just stay the course, it works really well. And not getting over your skis.
Mhm.
it's so easy to want to invest in the new thing that's out there and hope that it works out. Um, but in short, you constantly talk to your users, you talk to the nurses, you talk to healthcare facilities, you find out what they need and don't just guess, and you continue to interview, and then you invest your dollars that way. And it's allowed us to have that magic recipe, if you will, to be able to scale with those things always in mind, because they're leading the way for us. We follow what they're telling us that is important to them, and it's always changing. It's continued to change, and it's only going to speed up. But I think we've been on the good side of that, thankfully, the last 8 years.
Mm. So it's pretty systematic, discipline in terms of your approach, and you're like very thoughtful about recognizing where the opportunities are, only investing in those, and then not steering in different directions.
Yeah, it's a very good way of saying it. Honestly, it's so easy to go into business and think, okay, I know this is a great idea. I'm going to put every single dollar into it, and that's all we're going to do. Um, it's a great place to start, right? Um, but those constant interviews with our nurses and constant interviews, healthcare facilities, of making sure and validating, A/B testing, going back, okay, wait a minute, this makes sense, did it not? When it does, let's accelerate that investment. When it doesn't, let's go ahead and stop. You make decisions very quickly. My team always hears me say that uh, we want to be an inch wide and a mile deep, right? You want to do one thing, you want to do it really, really well over and over and over again. And as you have that mastered, then you go on to the next thing. But the beauty about what we're doing now is that we have so much room to grow in this one space, right? And
Mhm.
so be methodical, be organized, make sure that you're listening to the people that are using your product. Um, and over time, it works out. I promise you, it works out.
So how do you see the role, Mike, of nurses evolving? I mean, it's a role that's been kind of changing with the way, family structures are changing, and how we're at now in terms of how people manage their times. Like, what how do you see that role evolving, and how do you see ShiftKey being a player in that role?
Yeah, it's exciting and scary all at the same time, right? So the nursing and the healthcare career, physicians even, has been very projectable for the last 50, 60, 70 years. It's been
Mhm.
static. I go to school, I get out, I want to help people. I'm going to get into the space. I'm going to keep a career there, and I'm going to stay there until I retire, right? Um, and quite frankly, it's not as static as it used to be. Um, the number one issue that we're finding, and it's reported everywhere that you can see, is that burnout is a real thing.
Hmm.
And when you combine burnout with a lack of flexibility and a lack of choice, you're going to find a very evolving workforce. And so the way I see nurses and just the industry as a whole evolving is that um, we have to find a way to bridge the gap of keeping people that want to care for others in the workforce. Um,
Hmm.
these things were only exacerbated by the pandemic, and that's what makes this really, really tough, because I don't think that we're really going to get back to I hate to say it, but like a sense of normalcy about how things, are going to be in the space for another 5 to 10 years. It made a really, really dramatic impact on that industry. And traditional employment models work for a large portion of this population. Uh, but so many now need flexibility. We've already touched on it a couple of times. They need the flexibility to work at different times, either different times during the week, different times during the month, different times during the year. Life changes, right? And even more so for nurses, that when they walk in the door, they're not only supposed to be providing wonderful care, but you they want to have the best bedside manner. They want to be in the best mood all the time. They want to make sure that someone who's in pain, they can alleviate that during the day, right? And when they're in this stress factory all the time without additional relief, um, it's going to continue to cause enough friction to make change, right? So our goal is to be sure that we provide that flexibility, right? And through our products and our integrations, we're able to allow for that. We're able to allow for people to work when they want, choose the schedule they want, for the pay that they want, the frequency, that they want, in the environment they want. And if they find a place that they love being long term, they can stay there on their own, and that's fantastic. Our goal is to make sure that we're providing a good bridge between the two. And not only that piece of it, when you have so many people leaving the profession, you want to bring their joy back. You want to bring that human connection back. You want to bring that day-to-day motivation that they're happy to go into work, right? And choice and flexibility and access goes a long way to solving that problem. And that's where I think that we're right at the center of the solution.
Mhm. So you have a ton of data you've collected from, I think, over 100 million hours of shifts. I mean, a substantial amount. How do you take in that type of data and make it actionable and figure out what you're going to do with it? And what are some of the biggest learnings you've gotten from this type of amount of hours of shifts?
Yeah, I mean, great data teams, right? Number one, you want to make sure that you have people that know how to look at it and digest in a way that's actionable, right? And we looked at these numbers. You're talking about 100 million scheduled hours on the platform, almost right at 500,000 unique nursing registered users on the platform as well. That allows us some great insights. Now, I'd love to say it gives us a crystal ball. It doesn't, right? But what it does is what continues to get underscored time and time and time again is that uh, through all that data and where these, it's not a pocket of need, say in Dallas, Fort Worth, where I sit here today. The needs are everywhere and they're widespread throughout the country. Okay. Now you have some hot zones and some places are a little bit better than others, but this is something that's only going to accelerate. We expect to have over 1 million nurses, leading up in the next 5 to 7 years leave the industry. So with that data, what we found in our user surveys and constant, just interviews and question asking is that the importance of flexibility and empowerment to this workforce is paramount. There's no way to get around it. This is something that we need to be able to give healthcare professionals the ability to choose, right? And that choice might be a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, like I mentioned before. But more often than not, we're finding that these things need to be flexible and adjust. And so that data allows us to get a good insight. One thing that I'm really excited about is that 2 years ago, we through one of our acquisitions, it's a company called OnShift, and their workforce management product, schedule product. And that ties in with our marketplace very well, because you have the full-time employees of a facility are able to manage their schedule on one side, and the marketplace lives and breathes as this ever present relief valve for them. So what we did is that we built essentially it's a series of APIs. It's just a call back and forth. So when the schedule is full and prioritize their full-time staff, and there's not any other help to go access, in real time, we can access our marketplace through our SAMI integration. And that pulls other nurses that might or might not have been working in that time into this facility that needs the help. It allows them to be able to stay in the workforce the way that they want. And it really helps the community of which they serve, because you now aren't adding into the burnout of the full-time staff that are at the home facility. And so the data-driven approach, and kind of sum this up, is ensures we remain very responsive and evolving, in the evolving needs of the space. And our growth from the beginning is to be in that critical market need. And if we can match those two, I think that we can keep nurses in the workforce. We can make meaningful change. But the data gives us just incredible insights to make those decisions over time.
So just the last question I have, Mike, what do you aspire to accomplish now? Like, what are some maybe your short-term and long-term goals for ShiftKey, and also some personal goals that you have?
Yeah. So on our side, I mentioned before, inch wide, mile deep, right? So what we'd like to, we're in 42 states. We want to be in 50. And so we'll absolutely do that. We're going to continue to expand in the skilled nursing and post-acute world to be able to serve every market in the country, and do it well. Obviously, I'd like to turn these things on tomorrow, but it always takes time. We want to do it right. We want to do it very well. We just launched our acute division. So the actual traditional hospital setting to where there's emergent immediate needs. And that's just going fantastic. I couldn't be more proud to communicate how well that's going. And we'll ramp that up. And that opens up a whole new market, not only for our nurses, but for facilities of which we can support in the space. We're going to continue to focus down on M&A, where there are other, exciting tech companies out there that can maybe do a little bit better than what we do in certain areas. And if we can join the ShiftKey family, we absolutely want to do that and focus there to provide just a much more robust offering to the space. And just continue to focus on building the best tech out there. We like to think that we want professions and business to be built on ShiftKey. We're very much focused in healthcare right now, and we will continue to do so. And at the risk of maybe contradicting myself a bit from earlier, as we evolve, we want to be that place where licensed professionals of any kind, healthcare or otherwise, come to work and find work. Because we do believe this is the change and this is the evolution of what's going to happen in the space over the next 5 to 10 years. And we're the leader in the industry now in our space. And we continue to want to stay in front of that by just providing great innovation and great products for everybody to be able to use and hopefully just truly provide a meaningful difference in the space while growing an exciting and wonderful company.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Mike, and sharing the story of ShiftKey. I think there's a lot people can learn from how you've been able to stay focused in really one area and be able to perfect that and keep costs down and then scale by doing so. And I'm definitely excited to see the impact you'll continue to have. I think you've helped a lot of nurses and people, in this kind of economy state, be able to support themselves when it hasn't been as easy. And I think it's great what you're doing. So looking forward to seeing what's next. Thanks for coming on.
Ben, I really appreciate the time. It's nice meeting you. Thanks so much.